So with the sad passing of Supertramp to Rick Davies last week, I reached out to you all to send me some of your favourite tracks featuring him singing. Now, my fellow YouTuber Phil Aston said this of Davies. Rick was the steady anchor of the band. His soulful vocals, his grounded songwriting and his keyboard playing were literally vital to Supertramp's identity. Tracks like Bloody Well Right, Goodbye Stranger and From Now On are quintessential Rick Davies moments, sardonic, groovy and just brilliantly performed. So as a quick reminder then, these songs that are coming up were the songs that you chose to remember him by. Now let's make a start with a footnote that as the music is mostly owned by UMG, I will not be able to play any excerpts, unfortunately. Now when Rick Davies sat at the piano for Downstream, he didn't need elaborate arrangements or dramatic crescendos. Just his voice and the keys of a piano. The simplicity was really exactly what made this song stand out in Supertramp's catalogue. And Davies brought like a raw intimacy to it, proving that sometimes less was more. His gentle phrasing and understated playing really stripped away the excess, leaving listeners with a moment of pure sincerity. Now, in a band that was known for its grand production, Downstream showed Rick at his most vulnerable and really his most unforgettable. So, if Gone Hollywood was a commentary on the lure and emptiness of fame, Rick was the one who drove the message home. I love this particular track, and with his raspy, world-weary voice, it cut through Hodgson's dreamlike optimism, grounding the song with grit and reality. On piano, he orchestrated the mood swings with precision. One moment smooth, the next jagged. It was that duality that gave the track its punch. But without Davies' darker edge, Gone Hollywood would have risked floating off into fantasyland. With him, though, it landed squarely in harsh truth. Now, with Brother, Where You Bound, Davies steered Supertramp into some politically charged waters. His vocal presence dominated this piece, carrying the weight of Cold War tensions and paranoia. Now, behind him, the piano and keyboards pulsed like a heartbeat, steady and unyielding. It was Davies' songwriting that dared to push Supertramp beyond personal introspection into global commentary. Clocking in at just over 16 minutes, this song could easily have unravelled, but his command over pacing and mood really kept it coherent. Davies wasn't just a contributor on this one, he was the architect of this ambitious epic. Now, when he launched into Another Man's Woman, listeners actually felt the frustration, the irony and the humour all at once. His piano drove forwards, darted between bluesy flourishes and some jazz-inspired runs. His vocals were equally raw, a mix of exasperation and swagger that really only Davies could pull off. Now, what made this song work was his ability to shift the moods from playful to downright intense. It stood as a showcase of Rick's musical DNA. Now, it's fair to say that few Supertramp songs cut as deeply as the track Asylum, and much of that came down to Rick. Now, his vocals on this one carried a tremor of vulnerability, as though he was living the unravelling of sanity the lyrics were describing. But with the piano, he painted this descent with aching chords that swelled from tenderness into desperation. Now, Davies brought a theatrical flair to proceedings, but it was never overdone. It felt lived in, really almost personal. Now, the song reminded listeners of his uncanny gift. He could make tragedy sound both beautiful and utterly believable. Rudy, on the other hand, ended up much more than a song. It was a character study, and Davies was its narrator. It's another song that I absolutely adore. His voice on this one added grit and loneliness to the story of a man drifting through life. At the piano, he constructed the track like a film score, guiding listeners through shifts in moods from melancholy reflection to driving energy. The jazzy midsection pulsed with his signature rhythmic flair, pushing the narrative forward. With Davies at the helm, Rudy really felt like a short movie told through music. Now, the title track to Crime of the Century owed its weight largely to Rick Davies' hand. His piano laid down somber foundation, whilst his vocals carried a brooding gravitas that balanced Roger Hodgson's soaring lines. He was a master of dynamics, and here he built a tension with every note, letting the orchestration swell into something really quite monumental. The song landed as an emotional climax of the album because Davies knew exactly how to pull drama out of restraint. It was proof of his role as the band's real dark heart. There was a quiet resignation running through from now on, and Rick captured it perfectly. His laid-back vocals this time suggested weariness, whilst his rolling piano groove lulled listeners into its hypnotic spell. This song felt like it was almost like a diary entry, grounded in the struggles of everyday life. Yet, he injected it with warmth, balancing defeat with resilience. It reminded audiences of his ability to connect deeply, not through flash, but through honesty and soul. On Goodbye Stranger, he didn't take the spotlight, but his fingerprints were literally everywhere. Now, his piano provided the buoyant backbone, giving the song its irresistible bounce. Vocally, those baritone harmonies of his filled out Hodgson's lead, adding depth and grounding. His sense of rhythm ensured the song never lost its momentum at all, keeping it breezy without becoming flimsy. He might not have been the loudest presence here, but his input was what made the track a real polished gem. Now, if one song screamed Rick Davies, it was bloody well right. You've got it. From those biting electric piano riffs that opened the track, listeners knew exactly who was in charge. There was that sarcastic, gravelly vocal delivery of his, and transformed social commentary into a rebellious anthem. Now, the bluesy swagger of his playing revealed his roots, reminding everyone that Supertramp's polish was always anchored in grit. Now, without Rick's raw energy and unapologetic attitude, this wouldn't just have been a different song. It certainly wouldn't have been a classic that it was. And when Cannonball blasted onto the scene, it was Rick again who was firing on all cylinders. His lead vocal here really dripped with authority, carrying a toughness that matched the track's relentless drive. At the piano, he laid down such a hypnotic rolling riff that became the backbone of the song, fusing funk and jazz into a rock powerhouse. It was one of his boldest statements, showing that he could push Supertramp's sound into fresh territory whilst keeping it grounded in rhythm and grit. The track's intensity, anchored by his voice and keys, proved that he was not just the steady force of the band, but he was also the spark that could ignite it. Now, I've finished this tribute with just another nervous wreck, where he delivered one of his most emotionally charged performances. His vocal carried a mixture of bitterness, weariness, and also defiance, perfectly embodying the frustration of a man pushed to the very edge. He built a song around a steady, churning chords that really underlined the tension, then drew it forward with bursts of energy that mirrored the lyrics' desperation. Now, the way he escalated the intensity gave the tracks its cathartic release, turning personal struggle into real universal resonance. With Rick at the helm, the song became an anthem for resilience in the face, really, of collapse. So, as we bid farewell to Rick Davies, the selections you guys have chosen show off exactly what he brought to Supertramp. And whilst the relationship with Roger Hodgson might not always have been the strongest, it survived to create some of the best tracks the band ever produced. He brought that gritty, dark edge to the songs that gave them a distinctive edge. And this will be the lasting impression that I take from these songs as I say my goodbye. Leave me your thoughts below on this fabulous performer, and watch this video next where I name some of my favourite Supertramp songs. I'll see you over there.